What up,
GM, what I
e-boys,
miss? Talk to me.
e-girls? Welcome to Eden. What did you miss? Whole lot of nothing. Whole lot of price going down every day. I check price, bad price. We need devs to do something. A lot of that. Um,
Yeah, where's this number go up technology?
I heard about that technology, but I haven't seen it
Hmm.
yet.
Hmm.
I
I
heard there was
remember.
a
Also,
magic.
price locking. Those it's good on those people that price locked on the treasure at the top. Smart guys.
Why haven't we seen any price locking tokens? Seems revolutionary.
Hmm. We have, but that's the thing. It's only a vanity metric because you can you can never exit.
Interesting.
Number goes up
Interesting.
until forever, until no one buys anymore, and then it's locked in there forever.
3399 gang gang. uh yeah, nothing really went on in the trenches. There was a lot of I don't know if this is before you left or while you were gone, it's starting to all blend together, but there was a lot of animosity on the timeline. The
Yeah,
pri-
that was right. That was right when I left, I think.
prices going down had not had the best effect on people's
People with the lack of
psyche.
things to do. You got all these
Yeah,
people that also terminally online. They result of violence, I guess. If you take away their toys.
they were out for blood. And while they were out for blood, I was out watching an absolute fucking legend, Joey Chestnut, smash uh, cider donuts yesterday. I couldn't
Definitely.
I, I I didn't know where I'd heard the name before at first, and then it just hit me. Like we walked in as the competition was happening, and my son loves that guy because he was on Mr. Beast. So when we walk up, we hear like "and Joey Chestnut," and I'm like, "Wait, why does that sound so familiar?" And then I see that there's this donut eating contest going on. This guy with a fucking WWF belt over his shoulder. My son's like, "That's Joey Chestnut. That's the guy from Mr. Beast." That was pretty cool.
That's dope. We're at like
Yeah,
a fair or something.
yeah. It was at there's this I don't know privately owned like farm quote unquote that's not far from where I live, and they have a huge plot of land, really beautiful. And every fall, like end of summer, they do like pumpkin patch stuff. They set up mazes in their cornfields at the bottom. Sell pumpkins, have like pig races, um, all sorts of like little fun stuff for the kids. But they have like playgrounds that they set up too, like well, not like a regular playground, but like big blow up like things for like kids to come when they have these fairs. So we just went to go like take the kid there and get him to touch some grass. But it just so happened to be that they were having a food eating competition. So yeah, saw Joey Chestnut. You got to meet him. He was pretty psyched.
It's
And
dope.
yeah, I came back to seeing my net worth down a little more, but we've come to get used to that these times a year.
Yeah, my grandfather, uh, he's he's getting old in his high 80s,
Woo! Hot
and
damn.
he calls me like every other day. Hey, how's Bitcoin doing? I'm like, it goes up, it goes down. You know that. Oh, it goes up, it goes down, just like them stocks.
I hear 12K is still in play, Drew.
No, it's too much. He doesn't. He just anyhow. Every time he sees it on television, he'll like call me too. How's Bitcoin doing? Yeah, it goes up, it goes down.
It's
That's
hilarious.
all I know. I mean, that's it. To be honest with you, he probably understands more of what I do than 90% of the rest of my family, including my like closer family. But
Yeah, my father-in-law's pretty. pretty on top of the Bitcoin price um, when there's a
when
lot of
it's up only.
volatility. Not even just when it's up only, but when there's a lot of volatility, he notices. He hasn't said anything to me about it in a while, but he as soon as we get a little spike or we get a hard hammer down, he'll when I see him on the weekend, he'll be like, "You see the Bitcoin price? It's down. It's down a lot, huh? You think you should buy?" I'm like, "I don't need to buy." That's not the question I ask myself. Should I buy? Should I buy back?
All right, what's going
Uh,
on in what's going on in the crypto space? I can give a recap on Masari.
yeah, I was gonna ask, how was Masari? It's usually a pretty fruitful conference. It's one of my, I think it's one of the most like publicly slept on conferences every year. Like all the protocols and I think like companies have a good idea what they're gonna get out of that. So there's usually a pretty high signal to noise ratio on the attendee side. But how was it this year?
Yeah, it's also back to back with ETH Global's New York event.
Yeah,
So you get some people that are going to both. And I actually think that I feel like there's probably more people that came for the ETH Global event over the Masari event. But like the Masari um, speakers was juiced. They had Vivek, they had Brian Armstrong, they had the Mooch, saw the Mooch, Scaramucci.
really.
Yeah, they had shit, man. They had a lot of people.
What was Vivek talking about? Trying to get
That
support from the
he's
crypto
putting
bros.
together a crypto policy as part of his platform, and that it's like almost ready to release. And Ryan had seen it, and he said it's looking good. And Ryan, I think, is probably help. I mean, Ryan, the founder of Masari, this is finger in the air. So correct me if I'm wrong, but he has raised 100 million capital for a lobbying, crypto lobbying group.
Really?
Yeah. So he's got his finger on the pulse for sure. I don't know if it's a super PAC or a lobbying group or whatever it is, but it has to do with pushing crypto regulation, um, which is a lot better than what the current guys are doing. So the 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 current lobbyist groups are like, I feel like they're like Bitcoin maxis, but
You know,
um,
part of me feels like we're being psyopsed with this kind of stuff, right? Like, are we supposed to just like resist and say no? Instead, we've come to terms with like forming teams to go spend money and go sit at a table with these guys and work things out so that, they still have their system, but we're like we're like the little kids asking to go outside and play after dinner before it gets dark.
that's a fair analogy, I think. Um,
Like why aren't we just
I
we're,
mean,
we're,
like
we're
even at
supposed
this
to be
Macari
the
conference,
we're,
like,
s- we're supposed to be the rebellious kids that are just like
oh,
we
if the
want we
technology is too new, if like the average age of like a power user is like in their 30s, um, and the average age of all of the wealth in all of America is in their 60s, 70s.
why is America the only place where you can't get a regular job at the age of 80, but the regular age of the people that like the average age of the people that run our country are like 75, 80. So it's
Yeah, I
like
mean, most of these people probably can't even drive, right?
you're not why is it in America that after the age of 65 the only things that you can do for work are be a door greeter at Costco, Sam's Club, or work in the government?
Or write research papers from your old professor days.
Yeah.
That's a good question. The greeter thing is definitely spot on. I've had multiple elderly members of my family that were Costco greeters, so that's fair.
Yeah,
Those are the
you,
two
you
paths, and they
you
have the
do that
same
or you
skill
do
set, you
government.
know, the same exact skill set. So
Why has no one else noticed this and why do we allow it?
It's just that that's the demographic age of the voting populace. Like you get a lot of newer people, but then post Trump, I think we'll have a lot of the newer people like pull back on their voting. But yeah, it's just that's the regime that's in charge right now is the boomers. They got all the money, they got all the votes. They don't trust other boomers. They don't want these young whippersnappers and their techno coins. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But Masari. So Masari, a few things. Yeah, Masari obviously launched some new products. They have like project pages and diligence reports and some cool stuff. Then you have tons of market makers because it's kind of an institutional conference because Masari is trying to be like the Bloomberg of crypto, right? So again, there's some market makers that were never really known to me have massive key sponsorships at all these conferences. Where are they getting all this money from? My conspiracy theory hat is like maybe they were part of the Terra Luna crash, right? And they capitalized on that bigly, and now they're like spending all that money. And talking to other market makers, they're like, we don't know where it came from either. Maybe this is a last ditch injection to a Hail Mary to try to make some money this year.
Are you talking about DWF?
Huh?
Are you talking about DWF?
No.
Oh, you're talking about random market makers?
I'm not going to call out any names. DWF, I don't think had presence there.
Okay.
But I like I saw the on-chain, the on-Twitter drama between like Witterme and DWF.
Yeah, I don't really get, I guess, are they just upset that there's some new people in town that may have come across their wealth in ways they don't agree with?
I think it's that they are giving a bad name to the market maker space.
Do they look? I have no problem personally with like Wintermoot, but I feel like self-awareness is kind of near zero when other market makers in the space are.
I feel like
saying
Wintermute
things like
hasn't
that
been around like doing a lot of deals, like
lately. But during last season, they had a pretty good reputation for tokens they were acquiring. You know, being down only from there.
Let's do a little learning session for all of our viewers that may not know the intricacies of market makers. So there are a few different models in which the market makers can make money with token issuers. There is the typical retainer fee where you pay a fixed cost of, let's say, 5K, 8K a month or something. It depends on the size and the amount of markets and the liquidity and what the goals are. But let's say there's a fixed cost, and then you give them some tokens. They match it with some ETH or USDC or whatever the pairs are, and then they make markets and make sure that there's depth of the book on both sides. And obviously they make money, and so they get to keep all the money that they make. Some of them are more active on centralized exchanges. Some of them are decentralized only, and then they use some sort of payoff schedules to kind of manage the risk on the Uniswap pools. And then, yeah, so that's like the main model that is used. Now, the two different ways that can kind of happen with a centralized exchange is that you just give them all the tokens, and then they will make the markets, or you can do it through a managed account, which is essentially like you fund a centralized exchange account, and then they connect their APIs to your account, and so that they can't like do any funny business in terms of like moving the money, taking it off exchange, whatever. They're just making markets. They're just hitting the API endpoints. You're paying them a fixed fee. And then the model that got popular prior to the last bull run was this borrow with call option. And there have been some reports that some market makers made upwards of $1 billion using this model. I know that. I know that some of them have. I'm just not going to disclose who they are. And so what that means is they take a loan of anywhere from like 3 to 5% of the total float with a call option. So if the price goes up, they can buy at spot price during the beginning of the marketing agreement plus 20% plus 40% or something like that. Typically, these are done via just contract agreements. They're not like any sort of it's like an OTC deal. There's no collateral involved. It's just based on the the good faith of the business backing it. And so those you saw where when the market was starting to go up heavily, they're hitting. It depends on the model, but either they're hitting right at like strike and then dumping those tokens like a little bit over, or they're kind of sitting on them, paying for them, and holding them until the market kind of goes all the way up. So your people that were not into that model are starting to come out of the woodworks now, because if you were to do that based on spot token prices today, and you assume that there's going to be a recovery in the market in the next 12 to 24 months, then you can get really good strikes on those call options, right? So like if a token is depressed, is well below where it was, 70, 80, 90% below where it was last bull market, then you can get awesome entries, right? And so you don't really even have to put any capital up. Well, you do, because you have to match it with USDC, but you got to manage some of that risk. So they take a large loan, they make markets, and then the token price goes up, then they can sell at a massive win. Now, some of those deals, they can be priced in the native token, so they have to return the loan in the native token. They can be the USD value of the token at the time of issuance, which is an interesting one, because if the price goes down, then they don't have to go and buy back that token on the market. They just pay what the USD value is at the time of the contract origination, in which there's no upward buying pressure on that large percentage of the float to make that loan due at the end, right? So when you see with like perp markets and stuff, is obviously if you open up a large short at a huge leverage, to make that money and close that out, you need to close that short, right? So it's going to create buying. So you need to create buying pressure to close the short, right? So that's another component that needs to be addressed in these documents. And no term is the same. They can go any which direction, but generally that's what is kind of understood within the space. And then there are specific intricacies and differentiators between the different market makers. But generally, those are the different models. And the models that have been profitable this year are the retainer models, whereas in past cycles during bull runs, the ones that have been more profitable are the lending and call option ones. But yeah, I think that's pretty standard across the board. I don't think I'm breaking any rules in saying that. Those are kind of the typical deals.
No, I'm pretty sure maybe like Thicky Thought or one of those like guys who are part of the kind of newer, I don't know if you'd call him analyst or not, but newer analyst type accounts. I think he works for a fund now, maybe, or maybe there are some rumors he previously did, but regardless, I think he wrote something about that, about the different deal structures that are pretty commonplace. So no, I don't think you are. Now, circling back, since DK is kind of given that, there are two of the bigger ones. One being a market maker that recently kind of came onto the scene and started kind of really making some noise, ruffling some feathers after the FTX collapse. And Wintermute, who's been around for, I don't know, a handful of years now. The one that came around after FTX has been acquiring lots of random protocol tokens, you could say, uh, and deploying a up.exe strategy For some
The,
reason, the
oh,
other.
the Up Only Technologies is part of their market making package.
Yeah, yeah. It seems to be some.
Then they wait for the follow through, and then they dump it back to below where it started at.
Yeah. some top secret Russian technology. So yeah,
Hmm.
some of the other market makers aren't very happy. They think their activities are not good for the space. Um,
On Hasaka's list of last ditch efforts to regain attention, that's one of his specific items is launch partnership with so and so.
uh, okay, we got a little sidetracked on there with that drama, but so outside of market makers and stuff going on in Vivek, what else were you saying? Sorry, so I got you a little off track.
Yeah, there are some regulators there. Um,
Anyway, it
there was
served
a bunch
papers
of
this year.
funds that were there, venture capital funds. Obviously, my focus was more on the market making side because there are not a lot of options, on chain options market makers. So having that discussion of like opening new business lines with some of these market makers was my kind of focus of what I was discussing with various individual groups.
What's the interest like or appetite for on-chain market making in general while you were out there? Because I know we've talked before on the
For
stream
spot
about how
tokens,
well we know that for like spot tokens that it exists, but for actual on-chain market making for like options and
well,
perps
they
or
they need a list like a listed derivative like product, right? So listed derivatives comparative to OTC derivatives in the traditional finance markets just means it's composable. That means you can buy it today and sell it tomorrow. It's a fungible. It's fungible is the proper term. Um, so obviously our product kind of solves for that. So now that market can't exist, and so now it's a matter of okay, is there appetite for this? And what we've generally seen is the appetite needs to be pushed from the token issuer side. So if you're a token issuer and you have a relationship with a market maker and you want them to market make options as a, either you give them capital and they're selling out of the money calls to generate additional income or whatever, and you want them to kind of manage that capital for you, that needs to come from the token issuer directly and say, hey, this is a service that I want you to support. And then they'll kind of, start putting putting the pieces together so they can support that and integrate it to their risk systems and stuff like that. But what we've seen kind of across the board is that no one has the infrastructure. There are a few that have the infrastructure for spot token making on chain. Obviously, that's kind of the MEV space really owns that. But yeah, uh, that's the situation we're in. A lot of these groups have cut a lot of their technology staff. They're pretty much skeleton crews at this point, and they're just looking to like generate some sort of offsetting sales. And so they're not really looking to onboard new technologies or new products per se. There are some that are fundraising and trying to increase their capacity to support more clients and more token issuers and different products. Uh, but the venture capital market right now is actually very very difficult, and so it's kind of hard.
we'll get there.
Yeah, I mean it's not even hard for, I mean it's hard for crypto in general, but it's hard like in traditional finance too. There's not a lot of appetite right now, and we may not see that increased appetite until yields go down again. So we'll see, unless there's another like major catalyst. But yeah, there was some discussions on the ETF, obviously. Mm,
What
decent amount
regulators
of protocols that were there for ETH Global as well.
what regulators showed up to talk?
Oh, I mean, it's more like Gensler hate stuff and stable coins and banning CBDCs, stuff like that. The general U.S. Crypto lobbyist agenda was discussed, considering it aligns with the founder so much. But yeah, other than that, I mean, it wasn't that packed. I would say that the speakers probably saw like record low attendance. I think like for reference, the Scaramucci discussion, I would think would be pretty packed, but I would say that the area in which that it could only seat maybe 1,000 people, and there was maybe 100, maybe 200 people there, max.
No one got served this year.
I did not see anyone get served. We were there when Duquan, was served many moons ago. Foreshadow, I guess. But no, I don't think anyone got served.
Well, we're making progress then.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good. I've gotten this. I've heard this that I would say that because we were very directed in how we spent the conference, that there was a lot of signal to noise. I've been getting back and forth on Token 2049, especially talking to people at Masari that pretty much went from Token 2049 to Masari. That it depended on how you spent your day. If there was a lot of noise or not. And so Token 2049, there were like 20 events per day. So there's like 20, 30 events per day. There's a lot of ways that you can get, that you can get sidetracked. There were tons of booth babes. There were tons of projects spending capital on, potentially last ditch efforts to garner some attention into what they've been building. And then I heard the same in terms of like Masari, like, oh, why are these guys spending so much money? Like, how long have they been in the game? That kind of stuff, so they can, maybe it's a last ditch effort to make some money.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see.
Token 2049 didn't seem like that last year.
Yeah, I think it's dependent on how they spent their time.
But that
like
was
if you spent your
I was
time
gonna
going
say
to side
that.
events
Yeah,
and getting
like
sidetracked, and getting drunk, then yeah, it's probably a lot of noise.
Yeah, the only side event or like even like late night event that I went to was karaoke one night with the Delphi guys. Other than that, I was like meetings all day long, was going back and forth between like the arcade that was attached to my hotel because it was a good place to have meetings there. A lot of restaurants and like little sit down spots. And then the venue. And the venue wasn't crazy packed either. Um, you had plenty of room to walk around. It was like at a. I assume it was probably at the same place. There was a conference center near the. Oh, I'm trying to think what the hotel is called, but there's like a giant like hotel, mall, like thing that they have that's like right on the water. Um, and yeah, anyway, there's an event center that's there, like a conference center. I would
Yeah,
assume it was the same place because it's
I
like
heard I don't know if it was at the same place, but I know that it was packed. Like you were super close to everyone.
Yeah, well, I saw the videos of people walking around, and I can assure you, it was nothing like that the year prior. Um, I was able to, freely walk and spin around with my arms, stretched out, uh, without having any issues. I was able
Yeah,
to
but I
find
mean,
people who
Asia
like
has a
I
lot of
never met.
bullish catalysts right now.
Yeah, yeah, I don't disagree that there is a bullish sentiment, sweeping across, but um, it just seemed like, yeah, I think it's like that with any big conference, though, any of the bigger ones that are really busy. If you have a kind of game plan of what you're going to do, and you're not just going and kind of wandering around to check out booths and pick random tracks, then you can tailor your experience to be pretty high signal to noise at any of the larger overcrowded ones.
Yeah, I was listening to a podcast about ETHCC, and how they always keep it in that small building that you walk into, and then you're sweating your balls off.
Yeah.
But because they keep it in such a tight, small space, that it feels like it's like a beehive. Which, if you were to run an event, you kind of want that feeling, right? Because it gives off in the sentiment. People are gonna be like, "Wow, there's so much going on here." Whereas permissionless was in like one of the biggest convention centers in like the world. And so, like, if you have to walk without seeing another human for 15 minutes to get to one of the tracks, then it's like, man, this place is dead. There's no one here. So, for any people that are putting on conferences, that's alpha.
It's a balance between UX and humidity, which falls under UX. It's a UX issue, right? You want people to be comfortable, but you want people to feel like it was worth their time. There's a lot of activity.
Yeah.
I think once Europe uh, is allowed to, or maybe just is inclined to install central air, it won't matter how many people show up to ECC.
I mean, I think that they see it as the same with dryers. They could have for many moons. Like, even though the buildings are old, they could be adding ways to put central air, and they're just not doing it. It's not part of their ethos, not part of the culture.
I didn't have an issue finding laundromats to dry my clothes while I was there. Is it just not an in like home thing, in apartment thing?
Yeah, I mean, they have washing machines in house, but having a washer dryer single unit, or having two different units, even crazier. Um, they just hang dry all their clothes. It's the Euro way. I kind of like it. I mean, it takes more time, but I like the way that the dry those like it feel like I like
I hang dry
yeah, I feel
some
like
stuff.
it's better at keeping like wrinkles out. Um, I'll tell you one thing: the washer dryer units, they suck at drying, and they just pretty much just, depending on how big you're, because like the load is already pretty small because the machine has to be pretty small, and then what happens is you pack the load in there, and then it just creates like this ball of clothes, and then it washes and dries it as a ball of clothes, and then it's all like the wrinkles are like stuck in it.
Yeah, I don't live in a
So it's not even
300
that
square
isn't.
foot New York studio that's 700,000 a year. I have the space to have a separate unit. All right, so Masari, you think compared to the previous years, because you've gone to the last two or three.
Since 21.
Okay, how was it in comparison to the other years?
um, I got the
Because I
most out of it, but that's also because we're a lot more known than we used to be.
yeah
So just like, wearing either my premium gear or whatever, we're a lot more we have a lot more notoriety than we had in past sessions. So that's good. Got a lot of people reaching out to us to work together. I think that it also has to do with like building in the bear. It's like we're
yeah
still doing a bunch of stuff in building in the bear, and we're still like putting out a ton of content and a ton of updates. And we're not just like sitting on those updates. Like a lot of projects, what I hear is that a lot of projects kind of have some stuff that have been completed in the pipeline, but they're waiting for some catalyst to like start the release cycle.
waiting for better market conditions.
Yeah. And it might be good, it might be bad, I don't know.
I feel like a lot
But
of times when you do that is when you get replaced by the new gen thing, because it's like while you could keep some grasp on the attention gravity, like the macro attention gravity that exists in our in our small like crypto universe, uh, you let that all flow to like other projects to that are like still pushing updates and building in the bear, and then something new comes around that's built exactly like what you are, but with all the updates that you didn't do or that you held in the back, and they just announced that like they're launching everything. And now there's a new shiny thing that has no token yet that everyone can like say is the best thing in the world. And like there you are, like having built like this really solid product and having this thing, this set of features on the shelf that you just decided uh, maybe someday these will it'll be right time it'll be the right time to push these out.
One thing that was kind of not directly impacted by Masari, but one thing that I discovered was post FTX, there has been a flourishing ecosystem of domestic exchanges. So you got like these different communities or nations that have high crypto utilization. You got like a Turkey or a Thailand or like some of those Latin American countries. And post FTX, you're starting to see that like their native exchange is starting to do really well, right? I mean, it's not crazy volume, but maybe a couple 100 million a day, which is pretty significant. And so you get like the BTC Turks and the Bitsos in Latin America,
Everywhere except the
and
U.S.
yeah, yeah, except the US. So it's interesting to see, like, because in the past you used to have like the US exchanges, which didn't have wash trading, the Asian exchanges, which had gross amounts of wash trading. I think that's all that existed. And then you had these like multi-regioned ones, like the Coinbases, the Binances, the Krakens, the Bitfinex, the FTX. And then FTX started taking like a large portion of the market share. And obviously a lot of those entrants are have sour taste in their mouth, and they may not be coming back, especially not soon. But for the ones that have started to come back, or the ones that are new entrants since FTX, or I feel like they're kind of consolidating to whatever their local exchange may be, because you get some of the benefits of like Bitso, like you can go directly into your native currency of like MXN or Thai baht or Turkish lira, whatever. And so and a lot of the activity is organic, on the trading activity. So it's definitely worth a look. I think is some of these country-based exchanges that are starting to grow in size, and not necessarily like a winner take all market anymore. So I guess it's good for market makers, but it's not something that I really you know that I really recognized until after going to the conference and hearing this come from a few different groups. Also, hearing from the market maker side of like what exchanges are good, what exchanges are trash, like and don't pay, what exchanges are still charging like $500,000 listing fees in this market, which is crazy.
Spill
But
the juice.
no, I can't.
who are who are the bad ones? Shame them.
No, I can't.
Uh,
I mean,
but
you
you
can
got.
you can you can probably tell it's the ones that list like everything. So,
It's amazing that they're still able to get away with kind of charging those. It seems like there was a huge sentiment shift on the protocol side after you know the Uniswap era kind of came about. Because prior to that, when I worked more in that side of the industry where you saw the path of a project was, you know, most of them were proof of work tokens, or if they were an Ethereum token for the Ethereum side, it was like they did an ICO or they did some type of raise. And on the proof of work side, it was, they kind of hype up their launch and they start getting mined a bit, and people start talking about them. And it was really about like this attention layer and growing your user base, having uh, stable like public infrastructure, having wallets. After you kind of had this like base layer support from wallets and public infra and that kind of shit, then exchanges would start paying attention to you. But it was there was a lot of public opinion, I think, that helped shaped what exchanges were listing at the time. And then and then when the bull market came, then everyone, like all the protocols and projects, kind of knew that you needed to get listed and get in all of these wallets, and like there was this um, cutthroat period where everyone just started asking for money. Like if you were in that pipeline of um, awareness, then there was a fee that you could tack onto it. And when Dexes came out, protocol, you didn't have to take that path anymore. At least if you're an Ethereum token, you just created a market, or someone created a market for you, and you had native wallet support because all of these wallets supported ERC20 tokens by default, and you didn't need a centralized exchange to have volume, to have people pay attention to you, to put up all the metrics that market makers, centralized exchanges, traders with larger books are looking at to kind of find interest in a protocol or project. So it surprises me that today that there are still exchanges that are able to get away with charging insane amounts of money to get their asset on there. When in the exchange business, like you're making money most of the time on fees. Um,
Yeah, I think it's more of a like.
so like you want to get something in quick,
I
while
think it's
there's a
more
lot of
on
attention around it, so
the
you
realm
can.
of they've opened up the risk tolerance. So like projects I would never list in previous bull markets are now listing, and if you want to pay, um, and those are only going to be the top tiers, right? I mean, but some have come around and like lowered their listing fees, but
I can imagine Pepe having paid.
I think they did. If you read that thread, Pepe did pay. No, wait, that was safe mode. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, like I could see stuff like that, uh, paying just like for the legitimacy aspect of it. Like a meme coin, its half life is usually pretty short on the open market, but if you're able to kind of juice yourself with some clout by being on a centralized exchange, then you've kind of cheated your way into like a, not Doge tier, but like at a sub level of that, to where people are paying attention to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting space because like the creme de la creme, the Coinbase doesn't charge listing fees. But if you pay a listing fee to be on some other exchange and they're generating tons of volume and they're generating tons of fees, then like Coinbase is like, well, now we have to list this or at least talk about it. I think in Pepe's example, they did not list because of the connotations of what Pepe is, I think was the reasoning. But it's you pay in some
Oh,
regards
you
to
mean a
get
symbol
listed
of
and then the
freedom?
bigger players notice you.
They didn't like that it was a symbol of freedom in Hong Kong?
I think it was more along the lines of like, yeah, some of the 4chan connotations, but then also that the founder or the not the founder but the creator wasn't being compensated for the use of his likeness, of his Pepe character, whatever that guy's name is.
Do they not know the history of Pepe?
I don't know, dude. I don't know.
They have the fucking partnership with Coca Cola. Where do you draw the line? I don't know.
I don't know. Um, what about in tech news? I know that one thing that kind of got a decent amount of attention while I was gone, they probably did some coordinated marketing push, was like some of these like SVMs coming over to layer twos. So with proto dink sharding coming Well, now I think they delayed to like the beginning of Q1 potentially because
Talking
they.
about Kanto?
Well, we can get into that, but yeah, there's a lot that are like, oh, well, we're not going to roll layer ones anymore. We're just going to roll it as a layer two, and then do finality on Ethereum, settlement on Ethereum. But we're gonna roll as a as a layer two, and then plug into the proto danksharding, right? And I think it starts with 3. Where the blob space can support, I think, up to maybe 8 or something, or maybe 10. But at first, I think they're starting with 3 per block that can submit blobs. But yeah, you saw Kanto is going to roll a layer, is going to transition to a layer 2. So he went to Cosmos, came back. You got some of the Solana players, like Eclipse, is moving the SVM over. So I think that's a WASM based implementation of the Solana's virtual machine that's going to hit settlement or finality, I guess, on Ethereum. You got Phantom that's in conversations of doing it. You'll probably see Gnosis move over.
What do you see as kind of the benefit to a project doing this or an existing protocol? Like for someone like maybe Gnosis, I could see it making sense, right? But I'm having a hard time grasping why you would do it, in like a Kanto situation. Like you're
Users,
already your own.
capital.
Yeah, is it just that you would feel like capital is more likely to uh, be fungible between, your L2 and Ethereum happens to have the majority of like on-chain capital. I'm I guess I just don't really see the angle, right? Like when when you have a niche and you're pre-existing L1 or L2 somewhere else, and then you move into the Ethereum like L2 space, you're fighting with, for users against Arbitrum, Optimism, Polygon, and that's the other thing, like a lot of these are launching um, using like Polygon tech, but I feel like when you're doing that on Ethereum, you're essentially like competing with them in the long run too. And I don't really see the user acquisition angle when you're competing against like those three already pretty well established groups that have a lot of apps that do the majority of economic activity.
I mean, yeah, and then you need to change Ethereum to be your settlement, like your gas payment token. So regardless of what you're doing, you need to hold Ethereum to commit those. So even if you have a native token like Arbitrum, you still need to. You ultimately Ethereum is your boss. I mean, I just think that it's better than rolling an app chain, I guess. These are like technically layer ones, but I can tell you right now, I've never used Solana. I've never used a Cosmos chain. I don't plan on it, either of those.
Oof. You got to at least try them.
No, there's no point. I'm an ETH maxi. I'm going to stay an ETH maxi. Now, if they roll layer twos, maybe I would use them. Maybe we'd build on them. But like a lot of the things that like Solana solves with like parallel execution, I got my heart on for Monad. And so there are EVM compatible parallel execution high throughput chains coming on that can easily roll as layer twos, and then their tech stack can just commit as a blob onto Ethereum. There's still the data availability issue. So blobs only need to stay for 18 days. So you need to solve that data availability issue. The Eclipse is using Celestia for data availability, Risk Zero for their fraud proofs. Yeah,
I
you
met
gotta
some
you
of
gotta like
them.
mix and match different parts of the consensus, parts of execution, parts of finality, all that stuff. but I'm more prone to use an ETH layer 2 than some of these
What?
other
All right,
ripples.
so
And
you're the perfect like person to kind of ask this because me on the other hand, like I'm uh just a shit coiner at heart, so like I don't care like what it is if I think there's uh a high opportunity for me to be able to get my money onto a new chain and get it back off, then I'll usually go vacation there for at least a few days. Check out the new casinos and the beaches they have before I come back to my home at Ethereum. Um, but for you, why would you now like? What is it that would make you move some of your capital from pre-existing like ETH protocols or Arbitrum optimism protocols to this new? And I don't want to hark on Kanto. I just keep using them as the example because they're the uh, one that stands out the most to me.
I
That's
never
never
understood why
changed.
Kanto even rolled Cosmos. Why did they just fork a EVM and move to Cosmos? Why didn't they just roll layer 2?
Well, now they are. So,
Yeah, but why didn't they do that initially?
uh, I feel
I don't
like
know. Yeah, I
I feel
think
like
that you're going to see a
Cosmos was
lot with
kind of the
Eigenlayer.
go-to for like rolling your own chain at the time. So if you wanted to have your own app chain,
It was before the
then
conduits and the calderas. Yeah, you're probably right. Before the
yeah,
super chain and the orbit.
because even Avo, like they rolled their own Cosmos chain, but now like the
Avo
exchange
didn't.
itself, they originally were going to.
You sure?
Uh, I'm pretty sure that originally it was going to be a Cosmos like app chain,
Oh,
and now it's on Ethereum.
yeah, because you get
Um,
one click deploy with conduit. Yeah, I mean the infrastructure's there. The infrastructure's there. That's where the builders are. That's where the capital is. Like, I think infrastructure is all kind of consolidating around Ethereum ecosystems now, and so I mean, I get it. Um, I have no idea what's going on in the Cosmos. I just know that there's like a really good like tech evangelists over there, but like no users and
yeah,
no DeFi.
they have a really strong like developer community, and kind of I feel like always have. Um, it's probably one thing that has stood out about them amongst the sea of other EVM
Yeah, because I mean, think
competitors.
about like the next season's dinosaur coins are going to be like what the polka dots. Like, what did the polka dot do?
Yeah, very true.
They solved all the polka dot issues on Ethereum. So I guess I feel like polka dot's not really needed anymore. And then you got like ICP. Like, what's ICPs? What do they do? Like, I get the file coins, I get the R weaves, fine. Even though there's one EVM, I forget it's called EVM storage or EVM something or ETH storage or whatever. But there's already a roll up that pretty much like does the file coin model on as a roll up. Yeah, I guess if you don't have anything special in the tech stack,
ETH Maxi that made his fortune on Phantom. Can't
I
make
know,
this shit up.
I know. I was just thinking about Phantom too, because I'm like on the tech stack, the lattice like mechanisms make sense, right? Like having a cyclic grid. I like the tech stack is a little bit different for Phantom. Um, but there's a lot that I like. I guess I don't understand why. Like Kanto is a good example of why did it, like I get what they were trying to build, and I get the narrative that they were trying to have of like having some of these base forks at
Public
the
nodes.
protocol level, and having it be part of the native ecosystem. But yeah, it must have been that it was before the one click deploys was really ready, and so Cosmos is the only one that you could do a super easy setup. And like, what will we see DYDX come back, especially with like some of the eigenlayer stuff? Who knows?
I don't know. Competing against the Polygon BD team. It's now the ZK roll up BD team.
I mean, they got a good model, right? They build picks, shovels, blockchains that you can try things in the arena. That's super easy to support.
Some will work, some won't.
Exactly. Some will work, some won't.
But you're doxed on the sidelines. All right. So you're at Masari. While you were gone, like nothing happened in the market. People were just throwing shit at each other. Um, Friend Tech rolled out updates. More FUD on Friend Tech.
I saw
One
some
of the
friend
key,
tech competitors, post tech.
yeah, Post Tech. I'm not using Post Tech. I don't care. Like, I love using new Arbitrum protocols when I know that they're usually after they've launched their token and I know that they're legit. Um, but something about Post Tech is just like off to me, and maybe it's just me. Very well could be. My friends have made money in fees on there, like posting absolute like nonsense and garbage. But I don't know, man. Like I just I don't need the money that bad to where I'm gonna waste my time. It's not worth my time. Is really what it comes down to. Like I'm not gonna make enough doing that it's worth my time to be posting on another social media site, connecting another wallet. Like it's also tiresome.
So
Uh,
tiresome.
and like, and I just don't have. I guess like if I were like a true neat and I really had like no job and nothing else to do, sure, maybe that would interest me. But like the guy tweets like a fucking like Russian AI bot, and it just like I don't trust that kind of shit. When your protocol founder is tweeting about how much money you can make for the next few days on the site, it's like it's not it's not a good look, bruv. Not a good look, bruv.
Look, bruv, I love that guy.
Yeah. So yeah, post tech I wasn't feeling. There are obviously a lot of other ones that were or scams that popped up, but that was probably the most talked about and used one to come about. I talked about it a bit with Marty and them, and I think I brought it up to you on the side, but yeah, in the Parliament call. But one thing I've been pondering while you were gone is really the I don't know, kind of like validity or staying power of base, given how much control Frentech kind of has over it, right? Like Frentech's doing the majority of volume, and sure, you can say, yeah, there are things that are being built and deployed over there, but uh, who's really using it? Like you have Aerodrome's volumes dropping. It's not really novel, it's Velodrome, which Velodrome is great. Like I love the Velodrome team. I think like they have a great product on Optimism and like to do it on base, cool. But like, what pairs are really what pairs are users looking to really trade there outside of like wrapped keys? And what is driving volume other than friend tech adjacent like products? So I haven't seen like the type of DeFi activity or capital flight from other base layers over to base that I thought that I would see slowly happen. I think you thought it'd be a bit more uh, aggressive in the beginning,
I mean,
and
since
and
like I said this
yeah.
yesterday, that they hit 400 million in TVL, which is not a small feat.
Mm. It's
But
fucking
yeah, like
Coinbase, Jim.
what is going to be what's going to be the ecosystem that natively develops and needs to develop on base, right? Like Arbitrum has DeFi, right? Like all the big DeFi platforms are launching on Arbitrum. Um,
FTX had,
Optimism, I think,
Andre, and they had a solid, pretty cult DeFi developer group that was building products there. And Optimism has the Warwick Mafia and synthetics
yeah,
products. And like everyone has like some group that is kind of helping maintain economic activity there. And like I don't see that for coin. I should rephrase that. They have like a crypto native group, right? That's doing that, and I don't see that for base. Like, okay, there's 400 million, but like, where did that capital injection come from? Fucking like Coinbase LPs and
Who
Coinbase.
knows?
Like, no one's talking about it. No one's using it. There's no protocols that like the the base attention layer of people are using besides Frentech. So like after the airdrop or after the announcement for what points can be used for, um, depending on whether people are happy or not happy with that announcement, will dictate how much volume uh, Frentech is continuing to do, which will also I think heavily dictate how much volume base in general is doing. And if you don't have that, that kind of base native group that has a lot of crypto wealth that's willing to like sustain economic activity on the chain, then it just becomes like fucking Harmony or Near or AVAX or something where nobody's doing anything there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it become like a social hub, but like the fact that Farcaster already launched on Optimism, moved over to Optimism, like I'm assuming that Lenster has like a big paid deal with Polygon. So I doubt Lenster will ever leave Polygon. Um, or like what else? There's nothing else coming in the pipeline that's like we're gonna build on base. There's a few like perp dexes. There's a few like experiments like the based paint and the base writing one, but none of them are ever going to gain traction. You need something like a mirror to be like over there, or like one of those Lensters or Farcasters, or I just don't see it in
Fucking
the
open
purview.
sea where you don't need a token or like any activity, you just need to be, you just need to exist because your infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, well, there's a few things, right? So like Optimism and Arbitrum, they got grants, they had the airdrops, they had grants. So like for people that are building over there and that have allegiance to them, that are um, that are vessels, if you will, um, vassals, whatever the word is. Um, they're going to continue to build there because they're getting funded, right? And they're getting the support that they need. But like base, are they doing deals behind doors? I don't know. I doubt it. I haven't heard of anything.
Yeah. I honestly wouldn't imagine that they're doing anything quote unquote behind doors, given that they're probably under the biggest lens, given their connection to Coinbase and
I would think that their Coinbase Ventures can invest capital into groups, assuming that they build on base. I know I've seen it with other projects like on Stark and stuff. That like within so many years you need to support a StarkNet app chain or Optimism rollup or whatever based on their investors. Maybe they're still trying to figure that out from a regulatory legal perspective. I don't know, but they need to do something.
yeah, yeah. I don't see them. I don't. I just don't see them like staying in kind of the conversation of like where people are deploying and where people are choosing to build or you know focus development resources if there's no attention coming to it and there's no competitive advantage to building on them versus putting your resources into Arbitrum or Optimism. But we shall see. So coming up this weekend, we will be at SmartCon. If you don't know what SmartCon is, Chainlink has a now yearly event they're doing. First one was last year. Am I correct, DK?
Correct.
Last year in New York. This year they're hosting it in Barcelona. We're one of their sponsors. Uh, Disclaimer: as I've said before, we work for Premia. They're decentralized options protocol and Arbitrum. So take everything we say with a grain of salt about Premia. It's not financial advice. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, we'll be sponsoring SmartCon, Chainlink's event. Pretty excited to go and check it out. I hear it's more of an institutional crowd than your typical crypto crowd. So I think it'll be a nice change of pace for some who have been on the conference circuit and have maybe been experiencing a high noise to signal ratio. Also,
Yeah, I
really
think
nice to be with all you guys. We have a pretty large group going.
we got like 5 extra tickets too. So if you're going to be in Barcelona and you need an extra ticket, let us know. We'll try to get that on your name. Also, we have an event on Sunday at 2 p.m. local. So make sure to sign up for that. We'll be approving people throughout the week. In typical Chainlink fashion, you need to make sure to use your doxed ID because they do background. I think they do like background check lights on everyone. Just to make sure that everyone's vetted. If it's a Chainlink sponsored event, then you have to do background check light. They do a pretty good job of maintaining your privacy. However, they need to make sure that, for security purposes, that you are not a shadowy supercoder. So,
Well, I think they don't mind if you're a shadowy supercoder, but
of the dark arts, maybe of the dark arts.
yeah. Got to make sure you're not involved in any dark arts. I'm excited. This week we're back every day. What day do you fly out?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Oh, damn. All right. Well, well then. I'll probably have some special guests at the end of the week, but I'm happy you'll be back for a couple days.
Heck yeah.
I need my Spectrum sitter.
All right, guys.
That's all, folks. E-boys, E-girls. Thank you for watching, Eden. See you
Adios.
tomorrow.